Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are admitting everyone into the waiting room. Thank you for being here today. My name is Abigail Abby. I'm the director of the Brickell Homeowners Association. We're delighted to be able to be with you all here today. I'm accompanied here by our president, Ernesto Cuesta, our member at large, Maritza from Brickell on the River, along with each and every single one of you. I just want to start off by kicking it off to our board president, Ernesto Cuesta, and then we'll go to Commissioner Russell. Ernesto, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that thank you, Commissioner Karen Russell, for helping us to set up this meeting. To Daniel Prats, also a conduit for this meeting, and also to the Department of Historical Preservation of the City of Miami. Thank you for being here tonight and informing our membership of what is going on with the 444 construction. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ernesto. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see, as always, you have so much advocacy. We have 56 people on the call, and clearly they care about not only their quality of life issues during construction and the future plans for Brickell, but also about our historic preservation. The city of Miami is a very young city, and it's very important that we take care of our historical assets. And the people that came before us certainly tell a story that's very important. So as things are discovered, it's great that we have processes in place to protect them and allow for healthy development around them so that people have access and all of these things. So we've been hearing your concerns, and now we're getting the report from the the Preservation Department, and it's great to have them. They're an amazing team we've got here at the City Administration. And of course, you have my team at your disposal. I apologize, but I have a dinner tonight with the Consul General of Japan, as it's a very special event, and I could not reschedule that, and I'm sorry for that, but I must go have a 7-course sushi meal.
Awesome.
So I'm going to leave you in the capable hands of staff and others while I do the diplomatic duties of City of Miami Commission.
Enjoy yourself. All right, thank you all again. As we mentioned, we want to thank each and every resident who is joining us today. My name is Abby Abby. I'm the director of the Brickell Homeowners Association. Like Ernesto said, we're so thankful for the Historic Preservation Department who is joining us here today. Commander Ellington, Commissioner Russell, Daniel Prats, all of the residents who are here, who are so interested in knowing what is happening and how this is going to impact their quality of life. To our residents, just a quick rules that we're going to go through. Please do not unmute yourself, just so that we could keep the meeting as smooth as possible. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box and we'll address them as soon as possible. Now, to begin with, we are going to go ahead and open up the floor to the Historic Preservation Department. Anna, would you like to go ahead and introduce our first speaker?
Thank you, Abby. Now I am on mute. Just to introduce myself, I'm Anna Pernas, the Preservation Officer for the City of Miami. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to present to you all on the excavation happening at 444. It's been definitely keeping us busy, and I want to introduce Adrian Espinosa who is our acting city archaeologist, who's been monitoring the site close to for the past year or so. He'll be doing a quick presentation on what we have been monitoring and the weekly reports that we receive from the site and the excavation. As of right now, this application that has been the review that is underway is for has come from the demolition application that was given to the property owners for the parking structure. Within that, because it is an archaeological conservation zone, monitoring was required for the demolition, and at that time is when the reports had come back that there was further excavation required, and the applicants and the ownership have been working closely with us to complete the excavation on the site. We have the one site that has kind of been split up into 2 parcels as we've moved forward with the excavation, just to get the work completed and in an organized manner. So you'll be hearing a lot about parcel A and parcel B, but it's still under one individual site. If you all have any questions at the end, I'm happy to answer those, but I'll let Adrian kind of walk you through the process for the archaeological conservation zone and what we've seen at this site specifically. Thank you.
Adrian, the floor is yours.
What a great time, and I actually got the camera start working. Hi, everyone.
thank-
Thanks so much. Is there feedback? There's feedback. How's that? Great. So I just want to start off by saying thanks everyone for coming by. As Anna was saying, we're happy to be able to provide this bit of information to you all. And without further ado, I guess I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let's see here. And forgive me, I do not use Zoom too often. Share screen, there we go. Okay, just let me know if you can all see that. Can everybody see that? No? Oh, okay, how's that? Everyone's muted. Oh, that's right. Okay, so my name is Adrian Espinosa. I am professionally an archaeologist. I came to the city of Miami. I'm a somewhat recent hire back in November, full time, and I'm basically taking most of my time is spent on understanding this site and getting to follow our city's code as it pertains to these types of cultural resources. So the site, I want to go broad, and then we're going to go specific. The site was found in downtown Miami, as Anna was saying, after a demolition permit. Just kind of go along here. Right at the mouth of the river. What's interesting about these areas is that there's two others here in Miami, and then three along the coast in Miami-Dade. So there you have the Little River. Above that, you actually have Arch Creek, and then actually Oleta. So that does make four. Those areas are all areas that are considered sort of hotspots for archaeology and the evidence of people's living in prehistorically. And so as we see here, you'll see a green outline where the larger site in question, actually, which was registered with the state of Florida, 8DA12, or Miami Midden Site 2. And so 77th, as we'll see in a moment here, is just a component of that larger area. So this is the building as it was before it was demolished. And what you'll notice is there's a parking lot at the street level. And then if you notice down here, there's stairs, which there was a second, and maybe you're familiar with this building. There's a lower level to this parking. Now, what's the reason I mention this is because when the area was demolished, or the building was demolished, or rather when it was built, what we found was that the lower level of the parking, which is right here, actually ended up capping a lot of the natural sediments found within, which basically constitutes the site. So if you look at the top where the street is, and then you look at, which is right here, and then you kind of look down, this slope would have been the natural slope of the river bank. It was cut around here, and then it was filled in here. So this was the extent of the riverbank, and then it was filled in historically. So what this basically did was it protected a lot of the site, a very large percentage of the site, and that's why we're finding such a high density of midden material. And midden, again, is just a term that archaeologists use to describe ancient garbage or ancient refuse, really. And anything that would have been used by folks, maybe broke, or their food items, and they would have deposited into the bedrock, where we find holes in the bedrock, which are solution holes, which I'll show you pictures of in a moment. So as we continue on, one of the important things that we can understand from these archaeological excavations is also the environment. The environment plays a huge role out, but it plays a huge role in the sense that we can understand the life ways of these people who and how they use their environment, the sorts of materials that their environment provided to them and how they use them. Did they cultivate? Were they acquiring different food sources year round, or were they seasonal? All these sorts of questions have possible answers, and there's many ways of exploring this. And then in downtown, we have what's called the Brickell hardwood hammock, which is the green area right here. So the Tequesta, which is a name you've probably heard before, were a tribe within what is called the Glades, the Glades cultural territory. There were other different various tribes that you'll see up here, down here, the Calusa, Key Indians, but what they all shared were very similar cultural affects. A lot of the pottery, we see similar designs in their pottery, similar styles of construction, and a lot of their resources were acquired from the same places. As you can see, a lot of coastal areas is where they would mostly get a lot of their materials. So as I mentioned previously, this is the mouth of the Miami River, and then encapsulated in the larger green space is the site that was registered and recognized back in the 60s as the Miami Midden Site 2. Within that, you also have two components that have currently been recognized. We have the Miami Circle, this is a National Historic Landmark, and now we have another component, which is out of the excavations at 77 Southeast 5th Street. So after, during the demolishing phase of this project, archaeologists were brought over to monitor for the possibility of there being cultural resources or artifacts or what have you in this area. And some telltale signs of this or of these resources being present in the ground is what we call black earth midden. So it's, again, midden, ancient refuse, and in this case, it's high organic content, and so you get a very dark, rich color. Once you find that, it's very clear that there is either artifacts involved, or at least, at the very least, there is evidence of human occupation. And this is actually true the world over in many different countries. You have that phenomenon of black earth midden. So after they found this black earth midden in some of these demolition demolition activities, as you can see in the center, they conducted what's called a phase 1 survey, or a shovel test survey. And all these little dots here were areas where archaeologists actually went in and conducted controlled excavations and documented their findings. So you can see that the positive shovel tests were in red and the negatives were in yellow. And so what that tells us is a bit of what phase 1 surveys are for. They sort of delineate the boundaries of the known site. Now, if you can remember back to that image, maybe I'll go back there, that image here where you have the capped section of where the parking lot was, and then you have the area that was cut and filled in, and then you have this area that was filled in. You'll notice how the positive shovel tests were in the north, and then you get a lot of those negatives in the south. And so that the way that this structure was built actually helped to encapsulate a lot of the site that we have and we're able to find. The initial findings you can see here, that's a drilled Struck's tooth. It would have been, there are examples of these being tied together to some sort of wooden tool and then all angled in a certain way that would allow them to be used as a cutting edge. This is a stingray barb. Again, it's kind of chiseled off at one end, would have been used perhaps as either a pin for clothing perhaps, or maybe even as a hunting tool. And so once the phase one came back, we realized that there was a necessity to further understand the quantity and the quality of the site in question. So we understood generally where it was, or the consultant archaeologist understood where it was generally, and now we had to sort of dive a little deeper and find out exactly what this site, or what is available at this site, and what things can we understand from what we find. So these are instead of doing shovel tests, which are very small, 1.5 foot diameter excavations, these are about 4 by 4 foot excavations scattered throughout the site in areas that are associated with the positive shovel tests. So again, we're expanding on what they're expanding on what they've found already. And then the initial findings were listed here, and then some of the analysis that is still going to be conducted are carbon dates, ethnobotanical analysis. So they want to look at again the environment, what sort of plants were around at the time. Is there any evidence of cultivated plants? Was there cultivation? And then a archaeological analysis, which is pending. And what that is it looks at the enormous quantity of animal bones, which was just tossed away after they've been eaten or processed. And then we try to build almost like a menu, if you will. But from that information, we can understand what animals were most sought after, which ones maybe don't show up too much, and if they did show up, why would that be? So there's a whole host of questions that come from what we find, but there's also a lot of ways to answer them. So after the phase two, human remains were found in this area right here. If you can see my mouse on the far left, in this area near whereabouts, and it was decided that a phase three excavation take place as a mitigative effort, which means what happened is the Seminole tribe of Florida recommended they continue excavation of the entire parcel to account for any other human remains that might be still beneath the surface. And of course, this is of great importance to them. So that's sort of how we went about following that scenario. And if you can look on the far left, this image here was taken from the phase two or phase three management plan, which is we ask for management plans of the phase three because it's again, it's a mitigative effort, which means we want to mitigate any damage done to the archaeological site, and the way that's done is by completely excavated. But at the same time, when we do that, you need to make sure that there is a great emphasis placed on learning as much as you can from this. So that's why we ask for management plans. And all these little red squares are excavation units. Before, there were only 4 feet by 4 feet. These are about 12 feet by 12 feet. So then again, later on, there was conducted a phase one in the north part of the property, which these were the positives and then the negatives. And then, as you see, remember in that image from earlier on in the presentation of the capping of the bedrock and then the filling in of the ancient riverbed or the historic riverbed, we can see that that's also reflected in the negative shovel tests very close to the this line here, which denotes the historic riverbed. Moving along, I just wanted to speak quickly of the phase three research design. Now, these are some of the questions or topics that can be expanded on by the analysis of the data found on the site. So we've got settlement patterns again. Were the Tequesta moving seasonally? Were they here a year long? How can we know that? What were their mortuary practices? Again, with the finding of human remains, and actually recently they found an intact burial very deep beneath the ground, almost 6 feet, which is a great way to understand their mortuary practices, because these would have been placed with great purpose and not just kind of scattered about through years of the soil being turned over. We'll also be able to understand plant and animal use, again, what their diets were. Did they were they cultivating any plants? Were they cultivating animals? And also the development and sourcing of Tequesta pottery. So there's a few examples I'll show in a bit, but Tequesta pottery, what's interesting about it was very early on, archaeologist Gauguin created or founded a system essentially of relatively dating sites by using pottery types. Different pottery types are believed to be more closely associated with different periods in the Glades culture, which again is everything kind of going down from Okeechobee. And I missed one, and exchange networks. This one's really incredible because there's a lot of really great evidence for our vast exchange networks that's been found at this site, ranging from the possible Hopewellian woodland exchange network. I believe I got that right, which is essentially an exchange network that spread throughout, I believe it's the Ohio area, down south to the Gulf, up north to near Jacksonville. And there's evidence of the Tequesta also partaking in that exchange network, and as well as exchange networks between the Spanish during the contact period in the the early 1500s. So you'll see glass beads, you'll see a flint from flintlock pistols, although those could be from the pioneer period, as flintlock pistols were still used, well into the 1800s. So there's this really great span of history and prehistory that we can recognize for Miami. So this is a site that looks quite like maybe doesn't look too pleasant right now, but if you just kind of focus in on these large tubes in the ground and how they kind of form this ring. So you may have heard about the Miami Circle. You may have heard about Met Square, how these sites had what amounts to an ancient foundation layout for structures. There was post holes in the ground, so in the soft limestone, circular holes that posts could be fitted into to support some sort of structure. And here they found one half of a circle here. There's plans to continue that into the north to possibly uncover more circles, or the rest of the circle rather. So again, these are some of the very interesting finds that have been discovered. We have a glass melon bead here, which is of Spanish origin. An interesting fact that I learned was that this design actually goes back to the Roman era, as some of these have been found in southern England. Not to say that this is Roman, it's not, but the design at least. So long-lasting design. This is some gun flints. So this is an example. I wasn't able to get an actual photo, but it's essentially just quartz or microcrystalline quartz, or chert or flint. And then here we have a clear quartz pendant. So what's interesting about this pendant is this is very likely of indigenous origin. However, there is no nearby source of quartz. So again, this is another example of trade networks. This is there are examples of this coming up from Tallahassee, but it definitely came from the north of Miami, not from down here. We also There's also been the discovery of, this is just one example of a whale bone, but there are many examples of whale bones, and there's a few of them at the end of this presentation. What's interesting about whale bones is that we have ethno-historic accounts, which are very early accounts by Spanish missionaries and explorers that speak about how the Tequesta would, offer these whale bones, I believe, to the chief. I can find out exactly, because I feel that there might be a detail missing there, but they were of great importance. Here we have a perforated bear canine. Could it have been used just as an amulet, or perhaps there was, an actual use to it? I don't know at the moment, and it seems like it could be hard to tell unless other examples were found. And this is a kaolin pipe. This is probably from either its European origin, or it is from early pioneer era of Miami. And you find these everywhere, really, in great quantities. So in November, there was as the phase 3 is continuing, actually it's still going on. In November, we saw a big priority in lab work. Now, what's great about this, what's going on here, is there's an actual lab on site. So you get a very kind of quick turnaround to finding something, maybe something you find it down the line, and it's not noticed as it's being excavated. So, with this on-site lab, you're able to have maybe even an expert that's can identify human bones, which has been very important, because most of the human bones have actually been found after they've been excavated, not during. And just some of the ways that we at the HEP division monitor the ongoings of the site. We have regular site visits every week, and we also get updates from the archaeologists, and the Florida Department of Historic Resources are also kept in the loop. So here we see a typical area of excavation. If you kind of see here in the very center of that image, there's a few bones or pottery that are being carefully excavated. In December, we're continuing to find human remains. A lot of the ends of bones. We're also finding more European trade goods. I think there was 2 or 3 more glass melon beads, which, by the way, those haven't, as it was explained to me, those have not been found on any other sites at the mouth of the river. And then some more whale vertebrae. So here's an example of that whale vertebra. Of course, you would have extensions of the bone going outwards, but this is just the center, and it's fairly big. In January, we received 4 notices of significant discovery. 3 of them were human remains being found, and one of those human remains was a cranium that was found almost 6 feet underground with no other associated bones. So it's believed that a human cranium was intentionally and very carefully buried 6 feet without anything else on top of it. So it's quite an odd finding. It didn't seem as a normal burial, but it was intentionally buried, perhaps ceremonial. And again, a lot of the understanding that we have of the artifacts can and very likely will, I would say it will change over time as we know more. And so I just want to add that I'm giving to the best of my ability just what I've learned so far, but the way that we understand the site will ultimately change once we have the analysis, and once we can be very meticulous about looking through the reports and trying to find out if the questions were answered and what other questions do we have. So also in January, we have multiple cultural resource management firms working there. So this is quite a large operation, certainly the largest that I've ever witnessed. And I've been doing archaeology for the past 8 years now. Not to say there aren't any larger ones, but this is a massive operation. And then the phase 1 of the north parcel was complete. So again, I'm just going to go through some photos of some of the artifacts that have been found. This is a whale rib fragment. Again, this was, I don't believe these were encountered at Met Square or the Miami Circle. We also have a dolphin vertebra. Some of these, dolphin remains were found at the Miami Circle as well. You know, it begs the question: how are these animals hunted, or were they just washed up on shore? I'd like to think they were hunted, but you know, we would need that evidence, of course. An articulated sea turtle shell. So this is likely to be a ceremonial offering. Of course, you know, through understanding the greater context of where it was found, we'll learn more about that. And this is very interesting because a lot of what is found in the midden is what the Tequesta were eating, you know. But a lot of times what you do find also is what the Tequesta were crafting. So this is a conch shell pendant. If you can see, it's got a notch on the left side there. It could have been worn, you know, on the body in some sort of way, or perhaps it had some other use, but we know that it was worked in a very specific way for a specific purpose. And this is very interesting. It was brought up to me that there was a megalodon tooth here. Of course, this is a fossil, so when it was probably, you know, when it was deposited, perhaps by the Tequesta, it had already been fossilized, very likely. I looked online to see if maybe this was just a great white shark tooth, but just visual comparison. I'm no expert on fish, but it looks what all the other pictures of megalodon teeth look like. So this is quite impressive to have found that. I know there's a few rivers in Central Florida where things like these can be found, so perhaps that's their origin. And this is probably, to me, one of the most interesting finds. So what you have on the right-hand side looks like string, like rope. It's plant fiber cordage. You do not, just very plain and simply, you do not find these in large amounts at sites within South Florida unless they are found within very specific environments. They have to be anoxic environments, which means devoid of any oxygen, which oxygen promotes decomposition. So these were found very deep in the ground, and the fact that they even existed, you know, even in that turbulent sort of groundwater area, is a fantastic look into some of the material that we know had to have existed, such as, you know, rope for nets or rope for pendants, perhaps. But haven't been able to find in great quantities. So this is a great opportunity to understand this aspect of the Tequesta culture and how they created this very important tool, rope. Everybody needs that. And so when I mentioned earlier how having a lab on site is very helpful, all the pieces of this box turtle shell rattle were found. I think about a week later after excavations in a unit was completed. It was put together once someone noticed, like, hey, these all look the same, let's put them together. And lo and behold, more than 50% of this turtle shell rattle was pieced bit by bit. There's two things very interesting about this. This is only one of two that I'm aware of at the moment that have been found prehistoric turtle shell rattle that have been found in Florida, the entire state. And the tradition of using turtle shells for rattles for ceremony, I understand, is still used in many Native American communities. So in February, we had a few updates and just some of the things that were found in February. So pumice is something that you actually find a lot of in Miami, and in Met Square you found a lot of. There was a lot at the Miami Circle. But what's very interesting about pumice is that when you start to look at sites, you know, radiating outwards from this area, from the mouth of the river, you'll see less and less pumice. So it's been speculated or believed that there was a large accumulation of pumice for some reason in South Florida, in Miami, and then it was used as a trade good further and further out. So it was like the pumice hotspot. These were likely to either have come from floated in the Gulf, or I believe there was some estimates put it at coming from the Canary Islands. So it's definitely not from here, but it was gathered. And there's also this projectile point. Now, you don't find these very often in Miami. Of course, there are a good amount of examples. The reason being that, again, this material is not found in South Florida. Most of South Florida, all you have is limestone. Actually, all of Miami, really, it's just all limestone until you get a few, tens of feet underground. But so this was made out of a material that can be kind of chipped and flaked, and is likely coming from up north somewhere. Sometimes you'll find material that comes from Tampa, the Tampa Bay area. So again, very interesting. And this is another trade good. Either it was brought as a raw material and shaped here, or brought as a finished product. And again, this is some of the types of decorated pottery that we find on site. The different designs that we have that have been demonstrated on site are believed to have come from different time periods. So you'll have some looking like this, and there are others with sort of different designs that are maybe older. Some are younger, and then with that you can relatively date sites. Until maybe you have carbon dates from the area. But these are great ways of generalizing, what period a site was occupied. That is it for here. I know that I spent a lot of time kind of in the introduction. So thanks again for stopping by, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Adrian. That was very, very insightful. For those of you that are just joining us, I'm just going to drop a quick recap of the things that they have already found in the chat, just so that you can see 48 bone artifacts, 24 shell artifacts, human remains, a skull, articulated sea turtle, megalodon tooth, and the list goes on and on. There's just so many interesting things that have been found at this site. The thing that jumps out at me immediately, obviously, is the human remains that were found. And I'm wondering, Anna, Pernas, a few questions that we have. We'd just like to kick it off and say, in what ways will we preserve and honor the cultural land that has been uncovered here? There you go, unmute.
Okay. All right. And if you can unmute Adrian, because I think this will be kind of something we'll be going back and forth on, since he is our acting city archaeologist. But a lot of the bones are collected and taken offsite to a separate burial site that has been approved by the Seminole tribe. And Adrian can give you a little bit more information about the burials, the bones that they found there, and how they've been, a lot of the pieces that have been found as individual pieces, not as a burial site. We have had, I think there's been one that was seems to be a second burial. So that was one of the most intact parts of human remains that was found. But most of the human remains that have been found have been individual pieces that have been set aside separately. So if Adrian wants to add on anything there that I missed, I believe I don't know if he can unmute himself.
He's unmuted.
Okay.
Adrian, is there enough aspect to be a historical site? Asks Daniel.
Oh, sorry, he's still unmuted. It's the other it's his video camera. So I could tell you just now, so as we monitor the site on a weekly basis, we're collecting all the information we can. So we want to make sure that we have all of our phase 1, phase 2, and if necessary, phase 3 reports completed on the site before making that decision. It's got to be a very educated and informed decision when we decide on when we're talking about designation. And we're still in the process of monitoring at this point.
Yeah, and I have a question for you. There is any way
Mhm.
that you can define phase one, phase two, and phase three? A lot of people are questioning.
Oh yeah, I
what
did see that in the chat. So I'll give Adrian kind of um, that, let him describe that. Because that's how we kind of go through the process of the excavation
Mhm.
and the next steps.
Yeah, so just very quickly, I actually had a slide in here, but I felt like I might get bogged down in the specific slide previously that I spoke to the archaeological process and specifically how it relates to this project. So I'll just be broad at first. So the way that this site was found um, is that there are something called predictive models, which in Miami we call them archaeological conservation areas. These areas run along the coasts of Miami as well as along the banks of the Miami River. And so what these are, they alert our division of the possibility of resources, cultural resources, being found, in the areas. So we have a high probability, we have medium probability and low probability zones, and these all correlate with what we know about where the Tequesta chose, where the Tequesta chose previous areas to occupy. So coastal areas, areas along the riverbank, and that's true for many prehistoric societies. You need a fresh source of water, and if you're by the ocean side, you're going to be using the resources from the ocean. So that's how the monitoring was required for the demolition of the property. So then we know that there might be something here. Now, how do we know that once we find anything from the demolition of there, which is of the building, which is what happened? A phase one survey, what that does is it delineates the site, and so you say, I found a portion of the site, or I think there's a site here. A phase one survey says, okay, let's see where else or how far this site goes. Oops. I'm propping my phone up, apologies. So it gives a very sort of baseline understanding of the site. It's a very, it's like the beginning steps of any excavation. Sometimes a phase one stops at a phase one. I've been on many phase one surveys where nothing is found, but no data is still data, or lack of any findings is still data. But in this case, they found quite a lot, and so once you do the phase one and you find out the boundaries of the site, you need to ask, okay, what can we find within here? What is the preservation quality, or what is the preservation potential for what's underneath here? How has the natural soil survived? So it's able to answer all these questions that you don't really understand from a phase one, which is just the boundaries and very spot checking, areas. So that's what a phase one is. Have I answered your question or?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, my next question is, there is any probability, and I feel that there is a probability, that this site can be designated as historic landmark, or the same type that Simpson Park was designated a special landmark for native trees and is being preserved. I mean, there is any probability after all these stories are conducted and investigations? I mean, I'm sensing that there is a possibility. I mean, I'm not an expert as you guys are, but for what the findings so far, the findings that that are coming along, I think that there is a probability that we can preserve this historic place as a landmark for the future generations of Miamians.
I think that kind of goes back to where we were before, is that as we continue to monitor this site with informed decisions on how we're going to move forward or not move forward with designation, it's going to be really important that we get those reports and these excavations completed. We're still early on in the second half of this parcel at this point, where they've only completed really the phase one. So there's more information to be had there and give us that information. I think that it sounds a little bit, there's been a lot of questions about whether or not we could save this as a park, or whether or not this will stop the building from being constructed, or what the redevelopment plans are going to be. You know, at this point in time, we're really focusing on the excavation that's related to the demolition of the structure. And our HEP purview really falls on that. You know, a lot of the other questions that I've seen through the Google document that was provided to me early on from when those had registered, there was a lot of questions about the timeline and when construction would start. Again, these are things that are really based off of this excavation, and really on the ownership as well, as, you know, depending on how many people they have out on site. Sometimes they've had, you know, only one crew, but like Adrian had said earlier, there's been, I believe that he's just to confirm, 4 crews now. And they're trying to get through that. It's already been almost, I believe 10 months, if not close to a year of this excavation. And it is a large site, and we want to make sure that we have all the information we need before making any decisions like that.
In comparison to the Miami Circle, would you say that the artifacts found in this site, particularly in this site, are more than those found at the Miami Circle?
I cannot say that they, you know, we haven't really done a comparison of the 2 sites, because again, we need those reports. And since we haven't even received the phase 2 report of parcel B, and we've only received phase 1 report of parcel, A, and we need that information before we could really start to go into the details of what's going to be found, about the significant features that have been involved. And, you know, we're focusing a lot on that post-hole feature that was found on this site, because it is something similar to us that we see at the Miami Circle site. So it's going to be interesting when they move that excavation further toward the river to see what is left of that circle, because as of right now, we've only really seen just a portion of it.
What is the time frame for the next excavation?
They're continuing the excavations. They're in process still. There hasn't been any change on that. They have I believe a few teams out there now. And so we've been working with them closely to finalize some of the reports and get the information that we need, you know, quickly.
So this process can take more time?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Yeah. Okay. There's still time, because we haven't even started phase 2 for the second half of the site.
I see. So this is going to take a long time.
It'll be some time for sure. So I know I see the image that's been put up on site. I know there was questions about that that temporary power that had been approved by the building department early on. And that's something that's actually, I reached out to Maurice Ponce as well, just to make sure, you know, that is typical to the protocol. That is, I think it's because mostly that the time frame for FPL is a lot longer than they thought. And so they did involve us in that review for the temporary power, and they did monitor the excavation that was required for that, because there was a little strip of land that was needed to kind of bring the power in from the street. And that was monitored. And even Adrian was out there one of the days that they had been out there to just make sure that everything was going as addressed.
Can you clarify what they need that power for? Because that looks like a lot of voltage. Can you just clarify a little bit more?
That is a temporary power that is going to help them during the construction process, but that's all I can give you, because really that's a building permit requirement, and Maurice Ponce is, they base that off of what the requirements are needed for the site.
Okay.
I wanted to just very quickly, I know that you were mentioning, you're like kind of writing off the listing off the artifacts that I mentioned. In addition to those, there are also very, very large quantities of other artifacts which come in groups of, mostly animal bones and ceramic pieces. So those are also being found in very large quantities. And those are just the examples I gave were just kind of like very interesting, kind of unique examples of what's being found.
In terms of sizes, how large have been the largest size of artifact that you have found?
I don't know that I'd be able to answer that specifically, but I just wanted to get across that there's much more than I've been able to show you.
I see.
Yeah.
honestly, we in the leadership of the Brickell Homeowners Association, we would love to see a park in that place. I hope that everything comes to that determination and an assignment of that place, because we need that. We need in Miami that type of green areas, and especially, I mean, it seems that this is a very historical and impacting to our community, educational wise and cultural wise. So I just pray in that will take place.
Yeah. Were any circles found, Adrian?
So there's we have our semicircle of post holes in the south parcel, which is the south area of the property that's been excavated. We can, they think, the consultants think, and they've written in their significant discovery letter that it can go, that it can continue into the north, but we don't have that data. But it is at the moment it's a half circle.
How large is the team that is working right now at the site?
I could only estimate. I would say at least 20.
And you are the
that's
main
an estimation.
archaeologist. You are the
No.
No.
I don't work
No.
with them.
Yeah. He works for the city of Miami. He's a historic,
Right.
he's our historic preservation.
There are
planner
all
and acting
archaeologists
city
outside of the
archaeologist.
city of Miami participating in this research.
Yeah, so what you have are cultural resource management companies, which for the most part they are archaeologists. They can also be architecture historians. But as you see, I don't think you can see my screen, but one of the companies is Search, and one of them is the company that Bob Carr heads. So these are all companies that have archaeologists working on this project.
So once you the whole project is completed, I'm sure that you're going to make recommendations to the city of Miami about whether the place should be designated as landmark, or is the county involved in this process, by the way?
The county has come out with us to the site. We do about bi-monthly updates to our historic preservation board. And we'll kind of do those just to give, similar to what we did today, but just a little bit more concise with information that they haven't received in the last few months. And we may be doing one most likely in April or May, again, since our last one was in February. So we're giving our preservation board the opportunity to ask us those questions, to really get involved and to, give us the information that they want to know. And so we're sharing that with them. And those are on our agenda. So whenever you see that on the agenda, just join in. You could watch the meetings virtually, and you'll kind of see an update from the last few months as we provide them in the information about that. Yeah.
To your knowledge, are you aware of, by any chance, do you know if Commissioner Higgins have been advised of updated on the findings, or?
I can't say if his staff has maybe been watching our meeting updates, but to our office, myself personally, I have not heard from their office.
Okay. Yeah, because she's now, as you
Right.
are aware, the commissioner of the entire Brickell area.
Right. Yeah, and that's why we have some information that we've been doing. If they follow the agendas, they'll be able to see it when they come up, because they are posted as discussion items. So they could be getting the information that way, or through their preservation staff as well, who we keep in touch with, and they receive the weekly updates as well. Oh, sorry, there's a little bit of feedback here. There's some people in the background.
No worries. Anna, can the weekly site visits be open to residents, or is that only to city staff?
Again, I'm not the property owner. I'm not sure if that would be a liability to have a public residents come to the site, especially since it's an active construction site. So I cannot speak on that.
So if the place is designated as historical landmark, which might happen, there will be any switching, transfer of the property, any other site to the owner, or, I mean, how does that work? I mean, to your knowledge. I mean, I'm not trying to put you on this. You don't know the answer. That's fine. But to your knowledge,
Well,
I
when a
mean,
site is designated, it doesn't mean that the site is transferred to the city.
Mhm.
The property owner is still the property owner. Depending on if that process were to even happen, it would still retain its original owner.
but the owner will be restricted not to build anything on the property. To
No,
that
that's not
extent.
always the case. So designations are going to be different for every site and the types of excavations that have already been completed. You know, in the past, we've asked for, we'll kind of work with the applicants to figure out some sort of preservation route and what makes the most sense for the existing site. But in this case, that's not something we've been discussing because we're still so early on. Although it seems like it's been a long time because it has been a year, it's still early on in the excavation process and in the report process that that has not been discussed.
Outside of the city of Miami officials and Dade County, there is any other federal agency involved in this process or will be involved in this process?
Not that I know of that we've reached out to at this time. We in the past have requested a technical assistance from the state office.
Mhm.
And they have reached out to us just with interest of the site. So we'll kind of keep that line of communication open.
So the state definitely will be involved. In the
May be
process.
involved, may be
Maybe.
involved.
Maybe.
Good question. Is there a representative from Related on this call? If there is, we'd like for them to speak. If there's not, then we can continue, but I think it's important that they share if they are here.
I'm not sure if there was an invitation. I mean, I'm not sure if they were reached out to by the
Yeah.
commissioner's office or not.
Okay.
Well, you work directly with the developer, right? I mean, in communicating and informing them about the findings and things like that. There is an open line of communication. And
Yeah, that's part of our weekly site visits is that. And we,
so they
you know,
their representative comes to the site on the weekly basis and get updates from you guys.
yeah, sometimes we'll have people from Related there. Sometimes we'll have people, it really just depends on who's available because we try to keep it consistent. But we'll have a little team meeting, even if it's for 10 minutes, if we could get everyone together to discuss it. But Bob Carr is kind of our contact for anything related to the archaeological excavation in the site. And then, you know, we've been working on with them just closely to kind of understand what the next steps are, trying to explain to them what information we need within the reports. And just it's been a working relationship these last few months since I've only been here since November. That's what I could speak of, but I know that we've been working with them closely.
Are those updates are privately kept between the city and developer, or are there public records that people can have?
We've
access
received
to?
Public records requests for them.
Yeah. Are they posted in any specific website?
No, they're not posted. We don't have that.
No. So you are keeping those records in your office. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, we receive them via email.
So any public
Records requests have, yeah, we receive them.
Yeah, it can be requested.
Right.
Yeah, I'll drop the link of the public records that I have. They're posted on our website. So any resident can go and see up until phase 2. We don't have phase 3, so we'd have to submit another public records request. Is phase 3 complete though, Anna?
Oh, no, it's not. Yeah, that's why you haven't received that information. And we're still in process of finalizing the phase 2 information for one of the sites.
Okay. And Anna, how does this compare to the Miami Circle next to the icon? I know that they preserved that as a green space. How could we see that happen here? And
yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit just before, but again, without the information that we have from the reports to be able to really talk about to be able to compare those findings, I'm not comfortable at this time making a statement on it, especially because I'm not a trained archaeologist. So it's really not my expertise on, you know, until we have that information and we could really go through the facts.
Okay, and how much longer do you think in terms of weeks or months? Is there like a projected timeline?
It's really hard to say. I think the timeline is going to be based off the information, you know, how quickly the excavation happens, how, determined we are to get the right information. The developers are getting the right information to us in a timely manner. And then our review of those reports and working together. But again, like we said, we're focusing on these things as we get them. So it's hard for us to, again, and I'm not the developer or the ownership. So again, can't speak for that.
Right, and we as residents can attend the next board meeting where there will be an update, correct?
Right. If you guys just check on the agenda, I think we could do an update because we haven't had one since February. We could probably have one in April as well. So that at our next hearing, so that way give the board members any other updates. We're waiting on receiving the finalized reports and management plan for, the finalized phase 2 report and the management plan for the parcel at the closer to the river. So we'll have a little bit more information to share with them as well.
Gotcha. Well, one of the questions that had come up was, this one's directed towards Commander Ellington regarding the traffic, but because there is not much construction happening, I'm going to assume that Commander Ellington, there's really not much update that you could give the residents on traffic as of now. Is that correct? I asked to unmute you, so you should be unmuted now. There you go.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hi. When you say traffic, Abby, are you talking about our day-to-day traffic or anything in particular?
Well, specific to this site, whether the sidewalks be closed or if there's going to be a lane shut down, that's a lot of the questions that have been happening with the residents who are just not sure what's coming next.
Okay, Danny's on. Danny, you there? He oversees all the construction in Brickell. Danny, you on?
Yes, asked to unmute, so he should be able to unmute now. There you go.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Hey, Danny.
As far as lane closures, I know they have an MLT that was approved, but nothing has been done because of what's going on now on the project. I don't foresee any lane closures or anything of the sort for a while until they progress and they keep going farther in than they're ready to do, the heavy work. At that time, then I would foresee the lane closures and stuff like that. But for right now, everything's status quo.
Right, understood. Yeah, I figured just because there's not much happening when it comes to physical construction, which is understandable.
But when that does happen, there will still be 2 lanes of traffic, one going east, one going west. Part of the MLT will be taking up that sidewalk and converting that into like what we call a chute, where they bring their trucks in through there and stuff like that. But the actual street will have 2 lanes available.
Understood. Okay, good to know. Ernesto, do you have any other closing or any additional questions?
No, I just wish that the site be designated historic landmark. I'll be honest with you. That's the bottom line. So hopefully.
Yeah, we agree, and there's a lot of interested residents in this project, so we will continue to monitor it closely. To Commissioner Ken Russell's office, as you can tell, the residents are interested in preserving the history of this building, and we would also love to see it being preserved and honored for the rich cultural that it is. But we continue to monitor it. We'll stay on top of it, and this has been extremely helpful, Anna and everyone else who's been involved in this conversation. We just want to thank you so much for educating us on what's happening. And Adrian, Espinosa, we're going to continue to monitor this as best as we can. To our residents, the advocacy road doesn't finish. We continue, we press on, we do our best, and we spread the word. So this
And also, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I would like to welcome Anna and Adrian, that we offer ourselves to make frequently, as many times as they want to, maybe a month, every month or whatever, this type of engagement with the community. We would love to do that, honestly.
Yeah, much agreed. Yes, Commander Arlington, please go ahead.
Yes, I just want to acknowledge all of the women for International Women's Day, which is today. So kudos to all the women.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Commander. Commander, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
Yes, I would like to mention that spring break is here. It's going to be now throughout the first couple of weeks of April. Spring break for Dade County is March 22nd through the 25th. I might have my days wrong, but it's within that week. However, we experience people vacationing from all over the country, all over the world, and they come here to our beautiful city. And a lot of them do stay in the Brickell area. We don't foresee any issues with people partying here in the Brickell area. They usually go to Midtown or South Beach, but we do house those people in our luxurious hotels. So we do expect a lot of pedestrian and vehicle traffic during this time, so just be patient. We're going to put a lot of resources out on the street. I have requested motors. I have requested the bike response team. I've even requested mounted to assist us. So the resources will be out there. And if you have any issues, concerns, you see something, please say something. Don't hesitate to call our non-emergency line 305-579-6111 or 911 to report anything that you may see.
Awesome. Thank you, Commander. Maritza, I see your hand up. Please go ahead and share what you have to share. Maritza is a property manager at Brickell on the River, also a member at large of the BHA.
Do we still have Daniel Prats with us? He's still
Yes.
on?
Yes,
Okay.
Daniel's here.
Yes, I'm still here.
Hey, Daniel. Hey. Thank you anyways for this meeting. Very informative. But if there is any way that we can continue set up a meeting with the commissioner and Brickell on the River in regards to meet with the developer. We haven't been able to meet with the developer at this point. So if there's any way that please continue with this request from Brickell on the River and see if the commissioner want to meet with us in regards to that. It will be
Okay.
very appreciated.
I can look into that for you.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Okay, of course.
Excellent. Ernesto, anything else?
No, thank you, everyone. I mean, it was great participation, and I mean, you can see the numbers; they don't lie. So we welcome like I'm saying, we are open to have these conversations on the site or any issues affecting our constituents within the Brickell corridor. It is in our best interest to preserve the quality of life of our residents, and that's the advocacy that we do. And you know, if you do good, everybody's going to do better. And we need to preserve this site. I'm totally in agreement that I'm convinced that this is a historical landmark, and we need to preserve it as it is. It is part of our history, it's part of the education and the culture of Miami and the future of Miami also. Thank you so much, everyone.
Agreed.
Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you all. This meeting will be available on on YouTube. I'll be sure to upload the link tomorrow. I'll send you a mass email just so that you can have it easily accessible. You could share with your neighbors, spread the word as to what's happening here, and let's continue being a community that really cares and advocates for the best interest of everyone in our community, in our neighborhood. Again, thank you so much to Anna Pernas, Adrian, Commander Ellington, Commissioner Ken Russell's office. We're so thankful for each and every one of you. As always, stay up to date with our newsletter and we'll keep you posted on all things Brickell. Thank you all, and you have
Thank
a
you.
wonderful-
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Adrian.